We're back. Hello, my name is Steve Jaguar.
And I'm Mike Foster.
Let's get going.
Let's get into it. Yes, welcome. After a week and a half of a hiatus, C9K is back.
Yep, we are back. It's funny, so much for weekly. We already screwed it up.
Yeah, a lot of travel. There's a bunch of events that we have had to do, so hopefully it'll settle down this summer. But speaking of which, I'm just coming back from Open Source Summit. Steve, what have you been up
to? Giving talks, traveling around. I actually went on some holiday where I saw you.
Yeah.
So I've just been catching up mostly and putting the finishing touches on an infrastructure as code security course, which will be released sometime this year.
Very cool.
When I get the notes done.
I was going to say, is there an ETA for that? I want to check it out.
The ETA was October last year.
Okay.
It's a little behind schedule.
Gotcha. Should we just get into general news? I guess the Open Source Summit wrap-up counts as general news, right?
It totally does. It totally does. So let's hit it.
All right.
It's all burning down. How was Open Source Summit?
Yeah, speaking of burning down, it was hot as hell in Austin this week. So Open Source Summit, it was good. There was all the other small summits around it too. So Supply Chain Security Con was the main reason that I was there. Just really good to see a lot of people. It was, I saw Jamie, so I met a bunch of a couple StackRox people for the first time, which is pretty cool. Overall, I felt very vendor heavy. It was a little quieter. There's still some restrictions on who could go and what you could do. So, but still an awesome event. It was well run, very smooth. We'll see if there's a tracker that comes out of it like KubeCon. I don't think there will be, but.
Did you see that RSA has been declared a super spreader?
Has it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Earlier this week, I had a call with David Spark, who runs the CISO Series podcast, and he was at RSA and he had COVID. And then the next day, I saw an article. We didn't put it in the show, but I thought I'd bring it up now just to see, because I thought.
What's the definition of a super spreader event?
I think something ridiculous like 18% of people had COVID or something like that. It's not like the 0 point whatever percent that KubeCon had. It's like a double-digit figure.
I'm curious if it's getting to the point where it's so prolific that it's just in every aspect and facet of life soon. I don't know. It just gets more and more contagious. But
well, what was the mask mandate like at Open Source Summit? Was it like KubeCon where you kind of had to wear one? unless you were eating, and everyone tried to eat all the time.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. People followed it pretty fairly well, I'd say. But then, so on the, I think it was the second day of the Wednesday, there was a booth crawl where you had drink tickets and you were walking around the booth, the sponsored booth. And that was probably the best conversations that you'd have when you walked to the booth. I felt like everybody was a little bit more relaxed. But you're walking around with a drink in your hand. Nobody's doing this all the time. So
yeah,
it's somewhat like, hey, we're not going to enforce it to a certain extent. Just be polite. They did have the little buttons, so if somebody had a red button, then it was like, hey, make sure you stay away and be careful. But for the most part, I rarely saw that. I think everybody had green on them.
Yeah, I think red was rare. I like the system that I'm guessing, because I'm guessing it's Linux Foundation came up with it, because it was at KubeCon and it was at Open Source Security Summit. So yeah, that worked. It worked there, and let's hope it worked at yours as well. And you feel fine. You're good.
Yeah, for now, we'll see. The airport was pretty crazy. So funny story in Houston, or not Houston, in Austin, the air traffic controller, I guess somebody got sick in the booth there. So they had to clean it. So it took an hour or two to clean the air traffic controller booth. And in that time, all the flights got delayed. So every single flight in the airport got delayed 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, I got home really late last night. And I guess sort of my final secure supply chain take was security was everywhere at this event. I'll send a picture if you want to see it after, but all the small booths, there was a bunch of basically either dependency tools, third party, things like SigStore, right? There was even SUSE was on deck with ultra secure. They're championing ultra secure applications. And that was very unlike them to have a booth that was solely dedicated to security as their number one message. So
that is weird. Yeah.
It is very cool.
What's even weirder is I don't think we were there at all. Like our bridge crew pal, I don't know why, but I think we completely missed the boat on that one.
Yeah,
you were obviously there.
Yeah, we were there, but it was just Red Hat and IBM was there, AWS was there, Aqua was there. Aqua was right next to our booth. So
yeah, I don't know. Maybe we screwed up.
Yeah, and I also screwed up because Andy Martin was there and I missed him. I missed his talk, and I went around searching for him and couldn't find him. So Andy, if you're listening, I'll see you next event.
So you still never met him?
Still haven't met him. But yeah, all of a sudden I was going through the schedule. I was like, wait, Andy's here? I missed him.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get into our first? Actually, right on point. Let me bring this up, because this is a SigStore project. Let me see. Add it to stream. Add. There we go. Listen to me. Oh, you got it. Good. SigStore announced a bunch of things, and this is just one of them I thought was fascinating, because the GitHub security talk that I'm currently doing, one of my best practice suggestions is to sign commits. It's like when you say you should sign your commits, everyone nods and goes, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I should sign commits." Nobody does it, but I mean, maybe it's just us, but it's not always that straightforward. But here we have the keyless Git signing with SigStore. So I'm not going to get into how it works. Maybe we'll do a demo sometime. But the idea that they've got a sign your commits project associated with that, I thought was a nice little announcement. It's amazing. Just as an aside, when SigStore is so hot, it just seems like it went from I'd only just heard of it to holy crap, it's just churning out projects. Like, this isn't the only thing they announced.
Yeah,
it's just the one we're talking about.
And that was so. Actually, I had two questions. One was, why do you think it's probably not going to pick up? Like, why do you think it's slow with developers? I think my issue would be you wouldn't want to necessarily sign the commits until it's passed all the checks and everybody's okayed it, right? Because otherwise you're making a bunch of changes in GitHub, passing a bunch of PRs. So your developer, you want to sign it after, right? It gets merged.
Well, you want to sign to prove that the person committing is the person they say they are.
Yeah. It makes sense in open source, I guess, with specific examples, but wouldn't you also have, like, let's say you do proper roles and project roles and maintainers, and kind of avoid that, right?
Not necessarily. There's the thing I probably didn't do when on the show when I played with that was to spoof another person and do a commit. So it looked like the commit was being done by Linus Torvalds. That's the joke. It's like if I set my git config email address to be a recognized email address by GitHub, GitHub will even bring up the little picture of you. I could do a commit that looks like you if there's no signing it, just by saying I am this person. And suddenly the commit that comes in, and then you can get this false sense of trust because it can look like somebody that you're like, well, this person would never screw with us. And if you're not signing the commits, you might accept a PR that you really shouldn't, simply based on you think you recognize the person. That's why that's kind of bad, and it's really easy to do.
And from it almost the bigger the community, I find the harder it would be to do that, because you're going to have multiple checks and during a PR or something like that. So even if somebody that you didn't know push something, you're like, why is this thing reaching out for a geolocation? What's going on, right?
Well,
but
there you go.
Smaller organizations, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's, hey, you want to join this? There's 3 of us. You need to make sure that you have proper keys and that we know it's you.
Totally. And the thing is, when you're a smaller organization, it's like a catch-22. That's when you don't do any security. Yeah. It's not until you're kind of big and then you realize actually adding security is really hard. And particularly a lot of the things that SigStore do, albeit superb ideas, are still difficult to do at scale.
Yeah.
Cool.
Agreed. Very neat. All right, but that's going to be our next demo. And speaking of which, as you bring up the next point of the Spiffy ebook, there was so many startups that we have a bunch of demos, a bunch of projects that we could demo. I was walking around taking photos of all of them. So,
oh, do you? Okay, you've got some great input. That's pretty awesome. So part of my research at the moment is I have to get my head around Spiffy, Inspire, and all that. And of course, I watched the Kelsey Hightower keynote on Spiffy, which was quite good because it broke it down, Spire being an abstraction. And then I came upon this monster of a turtle book. Like, look at this, which scared me, because then that didn't make me feel like I could just jump right in and learn everything about Spiffy, because like free book keeps going. You see it going, still going.
Oh my.
Oh my, exactly.
As soon as I saw 10 contributors at the top of the book, I was kind of, this is going to be long.
It is, but so I haven't read it yet. I'm barely past understanding why it's called the bottom turtle.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
Turtle. So you know what the bottom turtle refers to?
No.
It refers to like the philosophy where somebody suggests that the world is just on the back of a turtle.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then the philosopher says, well, what's below the turtle? And the answer is, well, it's turtles all the way down. And so there's the idea that, okay, well, whoever the bottom turtle is, that's security. It's a metaphor for zero trust, and everything rests upon security, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So it's a profound, deep title. But if you're looking to get into Spiffy Inspire, the link is in the show notes on YouTube. You can go click it, and you could spend 200 pages of your life reading and learning about this, as I have been assigned to do.
All right. Well, It looks like you're having a fun weekend.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go play disc golf and maybe read it next week.
Oh, yeah. By the way, speaking of which, you forgot to mention something last time we were live on air.
I don't remember anything. I think,
did you lose a bet or something? You had to say.
What did I have to say? I can't remember what the punishment was. I did lose a bet to one Michael Foster he beat me. No, he didn't beat me at disc golf, but he didn't lose bad enough.
He gave me a nice handicap, but I crushed it. So
yeah, he conned me a little bit. I can't remember what I had to say. Michael Foster's the best. He's smart. He's very good looking, and I'm very ugly, and he's smart. And
well, you have to put yourself down. I think it just had something to do with disc golf, but thank you for the rest of that. I appreciate it.
He's the greatest disc golf player ever. All right, awesome. I think it might have had to do a song, but I haven't composed it yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's the new session that we'll bring out. Yes.
All right.
Security. We got Spiffy. We got K8's secret management. Yeah. HashiCorp.
Yeah.
It's up. It's pretty cool.
HashiCorp Vaults 111 is a little bit like SigStore. It just crushed it, this release, and it's got all sorts of cool stuff. I've only put this thing in here because I like the idea of a Kubernetes secrets engine that's connected directly to Vault. Go check it out. Again, another potential demo, because we've never really done Vault, have we?
No,
I think lots of options there.
It's also getting a lot easier to set up from what I've been hearing from a few people in the industry, because I remember it used to be just super heavy 3-4 years ago. So
well, maybe throw that one at me, because I've got a spiffy Spire demo that builds that uses Vault. So maybe I'll try and incorporate this in. But I'm working on that. So then when it's ready, it'll be hot for the show.
Perfect. We got a bunch of learning notes today too, right? We got DSO learning, a bunch of tips and tricks.
Check it out. This is Michael Mann. None other than.
I've already forwarded this to a few people internally at Red Hat.
DSO training. Before Michael went full time, he spent the early stages of the pandemic working on a DevSecOps course that he never released. So he kind of had all this stuff in the bank with nothing to do. Maybe he's watching. Maybe that he can comment on whether this is where it all came from. But it's a really quite good resource, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Made even greater by the presence of a certain cloud native show right there called C9K.
That's it's like a shout out Inception.
It is indeed. So yeah, go check it out. Very good, and he accepts pull requests with new additions. He already got a little bit. He released it, and then he was pinging me on WhatsApp all the people who were going, "Oh, why am I not on your list?" So continuous learning and continuous get pull requests to add your thing to it.
Very nice.
Yeah, we got a few other things. All right, let me click onto this one. So how good are you? Out of 10, how good are you at Bash?
Ooh, 5.
Yeah, so I thought it was like a 7 or an 8. Yeah. You know, I've got a good probably.
It knocked me down a bit. I'll say that as I was reading this. So that's I thought I was a little bit better than I was.
Oh, now you're a 5. Yeah, now I'm a 5. Because I was like even just the first one. What do you mean transpose characters? What do you mean? What? Cut the word before the like all half of these backward. I couldn't Control R. I knew that one, but I mean, some of them I knew, and some of them just blew my mind. The idea that any of the escape things worked, I didn't even know that was a thing at all. I knew the history numbers. I knew some of these. I knew this one, but it's phenomenal. And I don't want to like be a scroll bar guy. If you can see it, like just up here. Look at the size of the scroll bar. It's like a little dot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't do this. I was even thinking of doing a demo of some of the early things. I thought, I'll go through and I'll demo the things I learned. That's a 5-hour show. So yeah, check it out. It's an amazing reference for speeding up and being a total Bash ninja.
Yeah, and honestly, they're pretty practical, especially when you get into the actual applications like SED. You know, SED, remove a line, SED, replace a character. It's simple stuff. Otherwise, I'm typically just going to the calculator as online whenever I want to do crazy stuff, but very cool. Bookmarks for sure.
Bookmark big time. And then are we the last one, which this is hot take time. I don't know if you looked at it.
I did.
I left it on this page. And the reason I left it on this page is because this PDF is a beast. Yeah. It has a lot of graphics on it, and just loading it was making my browser so I couldn't switch tabs. So once I got it here, I'm not touching this thing.
Yeah, and this came out earlier this week. I got to see Matt Jarvis and I think it was Steven something from the Linux Foundation. They presented it live, and it was more of a conversation too, which is kind of nice. It wasn't just them yelling slides at you, right? It was people chime in, because you have people from different industries saying, hey, this number is kind of misleading. This is why this is the way it is. For example, the average number of days it takes to fix a vulnerability. Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you go and you scan some old .NET code or something like that, well, maybe some of those communities aren't really there anymore. Right. So the older the community, you actually found the longer the vulnerability would stay around, but the median vulnerability time wouldn't be that far off. Right. So there's a little bit of, let's just say it's always really, really tough. I found the most interesting part was when they would interview the different kind of mostly developers, right? And say, do you have a security policy in place? Yes, no, or don't know. It's
What
very
was that?
interesting because you can't. There's a bunch, and sort of the first couple slides. It's do you have an open source security policy in place for open source development or usage? This is page 7. Select
There you
one
go.
by enterprise size, and you can kind of see the bigger the enterprise, the more likely they are to have one. But if you get rid of the don't knows, because technically you really shouldn't be using them, it's on the graph because maybe they're just developers. They don't really know much about the security policy that's in place.
Right.
You tend to see some pretty interesting trends. So in general, they have some recommendations, have an OSPO, who drives the policies, how are they enforced, like those simple questions that maybe you don't necessarily think about, especially when you're trying to open source a project. I mean, these are the core things that you have to ask, right? It's the things that people don't realize. Because all of a sudden you push it out, you don't have a policy for handling, vulnerabilities in your project. It can doom your project in multiple ways, right?
Yeah. It's amazing, actually, some of the numbers. I guess maybe I live in a security bubble, so when I see that 44% or whatever it is don't have any policy or something like that, I'm like, what? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Okay. I guess in a way it's a great report.
Yeah.
You should if you want, the link is in the show notes. Again, I think it works to go get the PDF directly, I think. But if it doesn't, just go to the Snyk website, you'll find it.
Yeah. And it's also in the Linux Foundation. So if you want something where you don't have to put input like information or get cookies to Snyk, you can go to Linux Foundation, although.
Oh, perfect. We
Yeah,
should
they
have
both
stuck that
posted
link
it.
down there as well. Excellent. Yeah, great report. Another good one from Snyk. It's, again, you want to see how long it is. 435 pages of very readable infographics and information for our industry.
All right, that's the general news. Week and a half summarized. Anything we missed, put it in the chat. Otherwise, crazy stuff. Yeah, crazy stuff is in CPU limits for the 3rd week in a row. I think we've been talking about.
Did I add this one last time? I haven't done a repeat, have I?
No, it's not a repeat. It's just very similar. I think CPU limits is kind of a hot topic right now in the Kubernetes community.
So this is me getting to the bottom of it. This guy, Natan Yellen, every reference I've found to CPU limits feeds back to him. And that's because he's a startup founder for Robusta.dev. And this is just his hot take right now. And it turns out I got a t-shirt from him at KubeCon when he kind of came up to our booth, because we have a tool that says, oh, you don't have CPU limits. And he kind of got all up in my grill about it. Said, you should turn off that thing. And I like, this is his article. This is kind of where it all, from April 14th, like way back. It's old, but now I realize this is what's kicked off this insanity. Mm-hmm. So if you want to find the source of where all the CPU limit crazy is coming from, it's this article. I couldn't resist adding it in here. And did you read it? I don't know if you had time.
It's pretty
you
short.
Just got back, right?
Yeah,
it's pretty short. What I did find interesting about it is that it doesn't really reference security at all. Like it doesn't factor that into the argument. So maybe
I mean, I kind of get it. If he's trying to push his co-founder, what you don't want to do is just go push like piss off a bunch of security people saying, hey, your CPU limits are improper.
Yeah,
but I kind of get it. You do need CPU just because there's no, you should still have CPU requests though. That's not what they're arguing for.
No, they're very much pro request and not limit.
Yeah, because you have to kind of trust Kubernetes to throttle it. Interesting. Yeah, we might have to try this out.
Yeah. I think it's worth a look. Maybe an attempt to disprove or come up with a counterpoint to it. But it's interesting anyway. So there we go. Go check out that article and throw some comments in the comments. The next WTF, I think I have this in the right order. Is this one in did I just whack this in here by mistake, or is this correct?
Well, it's in there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just our description in our thing is
it's a little off. Yeah, we have it listed as like Vault 1.1 secrets engine.
But this is still WTF.
Oh, yeah.
This is a record-breaking distributed denial of service attack. 26 million requests per second. which I think is awesome. And by the way, the C9K website is hosted via Cloudflare. And of course, my ego decided that we were the ones who were being attacked by Cloudflare. So, because it doesn't indicate what was being attacked, but it does say it was a Cloudflare routed, which is us. So, we might as well just assume it was us. Someone trying to shut us down.
Powerful botnet. What day is this? This is on Tuesday. Interesting.
5,067 devices. Yeah, it's mad. I would love to know. All right, what device still has a vulnerability that enables this? And that it still exists en masse, that you could utilize it for a single attack. Because that means there's a flaw. There's a vulnerability in the device that allows you to ping very minimal data out and have it spray.
Yeah.
I mean, we've reported on some of them, but it's like, okay, guess it's still out there. So interesting. Anyway, it's interesting.
Just glad our site didn't get taken down. Indonesia, all the traffic.
Yeah, but they survived. That's the brag factor, is that they made the news and they reported it, but there wasn't really a denial of service from what I've heard. So hey, well done, Cloudflare.
Kudos.
Yeah. All right. I think probably of the lot. Dun dun dun. Did this become a hot topic where you were in Austin?
Didn't come up at all.
What? You had a conference.
Yeah.
So what's the story?
Expand on it for the people watching.
All right. So back in February, Chris, I always find his name hard to say. Christopher Hadnagy or Hadnag, I don't know. Was banned from DEF CON indefinitely for misconduct. And what's amazing, we must have been taking a break to not have had this on the show, because I'm pretty sure we didn't. And when he was banned, they didn't release what was the misconduct, right? But when they said that they weren't going to release the details of the misconduct, they did it out of respect for the whistleblowers. And that looks bad, right? That doesn't sound like, oh, he was at a party and he danced on the tables and said a bunch of, improper things out loud and then sang, I don't know. And, he wasn't just a buffoon. He did something seriously inappropriate. When you need a whistleblower, not good. Doesn't matter what you did, right? Your brain could speculate. It's almost worse that they didn't say what it was. And so BSides Cleveland announced that there would be an additional keynote. Ooh, it's a big secret. You'll wait and see. It's going to be really good. Thought this was really clever. And then they announced kind of last minute, it's this guy, the guy that was banned from DEF CON. And of course, all sorts of people bailed. So like pulled their planned conference, trusted sec, gone. CEO Dave Kennedy, gone. Everyone's just like, what? Like, I pulled my talk because it was the right thing to do. Everyone just started bailing and bailing and bailing. And so now BSides Cleveland is no more. The founders have stepped down.
Yeah, I mean, he says that, he maintained he did not receive any details of accusations and said in a public statement he cannot recall any possible incidents of misconduct on his part.
How much tequila did you have, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where you can't take a side. You kind of just have to let some professional do the investigation.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's not for me to speculate on what he did. It's more for me to not speculate at all on what are you doing, BSides Cleveland? The guy gets banned for some kind of misconduct. I'm guessing they're friends, and they would we'll do you a solid, or something that where you just are somehow unable to see the optics of this, which seems insane.
So maybe don't make your marketing around it. Maybe just slide them into a quiet talk if you're really thinking about it. They can slowly build them up.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's just a little shocking. I don't really have a background on Chris. What's He said he's like pretty well known, especially in the BSides
Yeah,
community.
he's like a social engineering guru. Like DEF CON's got that whole social engineering style competition thing, right? I guess he's like the guy.
Okay.
But I mean, if you're good at social engineering, I guess that could take you down some misconduct routes potentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it was, but something bad happened, and he doesn't know what it is. So that feels unfair, but they should at least on the down low give you some details.
Yeah, I do wish that they would actually like file something of a report if it was that bad.
Yeah,
it's almost misconduct and not labeling it. There's a big gap in types of misconduct, let's say, right?
Yep. Yeah, and not knowing what type of misconduct, that's going to mean anybody who is sensitive to a particular type of misconduct, that's what their brain's going to think he did.
Yep. Yeah, you inject into it, right?
Yeah. So that kind of sucks.
It does. Also, BSides, woof.
Well, I mean, come on. Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right, on to more positive subject matter.
Yeah, we've been hearing about layoffs and all this stuff, but then we see big spenders just dropping out of nowhere. So here we go.
But Cisco made a 20 billion plus is irrelevant, takeover offer for Splunk. Yeah, in active test. This is not done
Yeah.
from as far as I know, but just wow. That's huge.
Yeah, no kidding. 20 billion. Speaking of Cisco, we're doing a demo on Panoptica after this. So Cisco going after Splunk, go after port shift. What else is Cisco doing? Some big moves.
Splunk is pretty. I kind of thought Splunk was too big. You know, that seemed more Splunk seemed more like a wheel IPO kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they're being disrupted by companies, and so they're not hitting that 13 quarters in a row so that they can IPO. So Cisco's probably maybe catching them on a down or something like that and throwing an offer in the works. Who knows?
Yeah,
it's good.
Interesting time to spend that much money.
Well, yeah, maybe they're having second thoughts. I think this started a couple months ago. Well, it was the date of February, even though I only just saw it, but I still think like that had to get a mention.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we'll be following that one to see exactly how it turns out. And then you got this one in pretty last minute.
Yes, absolutely last minute. Cybersecurity JIT.io. I think that's their thing. Yeah, there it is, JIT.io. Right, completely falling in our wheelhouse. What they do gets 38.5 in seed funding. If there was, remember we were talking about, is all the money gone? No, the money's not gone. Bold start appropriately named ventures.
The security startups had their marketing budgets at Open Source Summit. That's for sure.
Yep. A good crowd of investors too. Insight is Microsoft related. Bold Start was there it is there. Bold Start was Sneaks investor. Like all pretty solid. Go check out JIT.io. You'll learn more about them. It's all CI/CD, cloud native, open source security tools, modern engineering teams, developer focused, all that wonderful stuff that everyone loves to hear, right? How are they disrupting? What makes them different? Well, we'll find out ourselves because I'd never heard of them.
Yeah, we'll follow it along. I'm sure they'll come out with an MVP soon.
You got it. Maybe we'll get them on the show.
Yeah, and now we have kind of a half vulnerability. We can call it that, right?
It's a follow-up.
All right, cookie time.
Now, what starts with the letter C?
All right. Never get tired of Cookie Monster. Former Amazon employee found guilty 3 years later of the Capital One data breach, which was a huge data breach. No fewer than 100 million people, personal data released. And now we know Paige Thompson, who operated under the online alias Erratic. I think what I'm learning here is that what I'm definitely not going to do is create an online alias that makes me sound like I'm guilty out of the box.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah, it'd be like Ladybug or something like that.
Yeah. Super normal guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Hacking skills to steal. So what's funny about this, right? So here's an ex-Amazon employee, and when you roll down, and I don't know if this article, if it's another article, but it details how she essentially created a anti-misconfiguration bot that went and looked for AWS misconfigurations. And who would know how to find misconfigurations better than someone who worked at AWS?
Yeah.
And there is a potentially unflattering photo of Paige Thompson, and I don't know, an interesting pose. Where we got that photo, we did.
It was pretty shocking because Capital One got fined $80 million for failing to establish appropriate risk management measures before migrating its IT operations to the cloud service. It agreed to pay $190 million to settle a class action lawsuit after that as well. So that's a pretty hefty fine. That goes on the big spenders, $270 million overall. That's Erratic did a bunch of damage on that. That's for sure. And I mean, partially, right? If she's developing a tool, there must have been other projects that came up too. But Capital One just had some of the more prevalent misconfigurations they'll be exploited. That was my take.
Yeah, I'm sure she found a ton of options. But when you find Capital One and you find data and you find buckets that are just like it was the classic S3 bucket, like
it was open, right, and exposed.
It's amazing, but I guess this 3 years ago is like it might as well be 100 years ago from a cloud misconfiguration perspective, because there's so many tools and CSPMs and whatever to catch all this stuff for you now that didn't really exist or wasn't that mature back then. So it's a little harsh to then punish somebody for. Now it seems harsh.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at the migration on Kubernetes, especially into containers, you understood why maybe it hasn't really picked up until the last 3 years. Security was the big topic in 2019 at KubeCon, right? So as you see more and more of these tools come in, well, then maybe the risk of migrating lessens, because there's a lot of companies who do not want to pay a $270 million price tag.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit of negative incentive, stick versus carrot, but
yeah, how bleeding edge do you want to be? And yeah.
Cool. All right. So that is that our last section before we dive into your amazing demonstration?
Amazing demonstration. Yeah. It was just working with PortShift. So PortShift got acquired by Cisco, and then Cisco has recently released Panoptica. So it's their secure cloud application. I don't know if you want to check out the website first. I can switch it over, but I can go right into the UI. What are we thinking? I don't really want to give the background. Oh, there you go.
Oh, you bring it up. Yeah, Panoptica. Secure application cloud, robust security from CI/CD to runtime, providing a single pane of glass. Oh boy, for container serverless API, service mesh, and Kubernetes security. Try for free with just a few clicks, and that's what you did. It sounds a lot like a lot of other tools.
Yeah, and when I was at Open Source Summit, you realize I feel like the marketing is just converging for a lot of those security tools, especially for the cloud-based security tools. So this one, I don't know if it will run the same in a disconnected environment, but I'll show you. I'll give you the walkthrough in 2 seconds. Let me just move the screen over and enlarge it. Let's get you out of there.
Oh, should I just kill me?
All right. This is the super wide.
Oh,
get out of here.
I was trying to remove me completely.
Yeah, right. So it's a cloud-based application. So when I started setting it up, like it said, a few easy clicks, then you get brought into a web UI that's specific for your user. The UI is not right? It's all hosted on their servers, which One, it would probably have an increased cost, and two, I'm very curious at how disconnected environments work. But you say it was pretty easy. So, you can just at the dashboard, I really like how the dashboard's set up. You can set up widgets. They did a very interesting MITRE ATT&CK framework edition. So they have this K8 shield.
Ooh,
Yeah.
likey.
I thought was pretty sleek. One of my sort of suspicious things is, okay, well, you come here and it's checked green, right? If something's checked green, that means that it's secure, or does it mean that it doesn't know? So, for example, if we have compromised images in registry, well, I haven't hooked up a registry.
Oh, so you're good to go.
So I'm
Congrats.
good to go. Yeah. And so instead, I almost feel like there should just be a question mark here to be, hey, if you want us to actually tell you, like, this is a conversation we have all the time, is how much do you greenlight and how much do you say, hey, we don't really know. Can you give us more information? But people don't like to come into this dashboard and see all this red so quickly, right?
Just gray it out.
Yeah. So that was
cold. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that was one of the things. When you get into this setup, there'll be no clusters, and so you have to install a cluster. It's really funny because it looks very similar to sort of old StackRox, like 2020, where it's like, hey, here's your installer/script. It prompts you to go and clear out your environment as well. And it uses Istio under the hood for a lot of the sidecar enforcement and network traffic, which I thought was really interesting. I'm kind of curious to go in and performance test it to see how heavy it is. But
yeah, how bad does it scale? I guess it's not hosted. Oh no, you install that. Do you actually have to install Istio on your cluster?
Pretty much, yeah. And then what you do is you flag Istio and the sort of port shift sensor into each namespace. So you'll either say, hey, I want in all the namespaces, or I just wanted the default namespace, which is kind of nice because, again, if it's hosted, you might not need to see, maybe I don't want to look at the vulnerabilities that are in GKE's, the kubeadmin workspace. I think from a security perspective, it also is a lot easier for you to say, well, you're only running on these namespaces. It kind of gives you a flawed vision of what your total configuration looks like, what your total posture is. If I'm only looking at the application namespace and the vulnerabilities in there, well, maybe I'm missing some key parts, right? Or just a developer goes and spins up a namespace, but I don't have it flagged. How do I know that namespace just got created unless I'm watching it with another tool? I haven't found anything that shows me that. But from a risk assessment standpoint, it was pretty cool. I think the scan still says 93%, so maybe it got flagged on something, but it did it very quickly. I clicked it in maybe 5 minutes. It came up with runtime scans, permissions, risk management.
What does risk management mean to this?
I think what's happening is, let's say you have a vulnerability here. So there's obviously we need to upgrade the shipping container in my Weave socks demo, but let's say you want to come in here and there's no fix available, but you've identified that maybe the description, maybe it's not that major, maybe it's something that is not really going to affect your workload. You have no data attached to it, whatever it is. That if you want to go to risk management, but see, here's the other thing is, now how do I get back? So I got to go here, ignore risk, pick a specific workload. Let's say namespace default.
Yeah, you put it into default? No, you would have put it into demo, didn't you?
I forget, honestly. It's nothing showing up. Pretty sure it's
we have to type the search. You see that?
What was it? It was
That's
shipping, right?
Yeah, there it is.
Shipping. And then the risk is going to come up. Maybe it was a vulnerability.
Which vulnerability?
Oh, yeah, see? That's all the vulnerabilities are getting ignored.
That's a bit sweeping.
It's still here though, so I don't know what what is necessarily happening.
Not 100%.
I also don't like how this doesn't scale, because like some of these you don't necessarily need this widget on this dashboard here. Or
no. I know, it's like it quite clearly could just come in.
Yeah. The RBAC permissions was pretty good. It's spot on. in terms of what it's recommending, especially for my demo. Actually, I shouldn't say haven't really looked into the cluster that much, but it's not really correlating the information as well as I was hoping it would. It's like you look at it and really you're going to risk assessment, and it's just a scanner. It's just a vulnerability scanner, right?
Got it.
One of the things I did think was really cool was this image layer aspect.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. So, you have a bunch of layers now. You can look and say, what are the dependencies? How is it affecting? Is it a dependency I'm installing? Is it a dependency in the base image? And then you can actually take do we need to update the base image? Do we need to pick a different base image? If, all your vulnerabilities are coming from that one, you might need to look into your container ingestion process, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. They also do have package licenses, which I found interesting.
That's cool. Do they do anything with that, or is it just awareness?
It looks like it's just awareness, but I'm assuming that you really should have sort of a print or a grep through here where you can just say, hey, we want to make sure that we're not running into this license.
Yeah, right. I don't want any GPL, something like that.
Sure. And you should kind of have that there. And then the benchmarks are also shown as well. Last execution of your root. You can get rid of columns, which I thought was interesting. Increase the amount per page.
Ooh.
Overall, it's moving pretty fast. Now it's just one application on a small cluster, but it hasn't been slow. Let's actually go up to the navigator, which maybe I should get rid of some of these filters.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty pre-populated, particularly if you set it up a while ago and haven't touched it.
So my guess is that it's pre-populated to be very small, because if you install this on a big cluster very quickly, this blows up. And so what they want you to do is they want you to slowly remove things.
You could probably move everything.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
No,
Unidentified. What was that?
Yeah.
Entity. What is this? What is this supposed to be?
And I really don't like this zoom in aspect.
This is like Weave Scope, but bad.
Security operations view.
And there you go. There's your cluster.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So from a security view, it says unidentified, and I think it's because they want security to come in and say, okay, well, this is the cluster. But see, if you click on operations view, it just says C9K cluster.
Yeah. What?
Oh, okay. So you have to click into it.
Okay.
And,
that's not too bad.
No.
I overreacted.
I think this is part of the Istio. So it's trying to make and measure the connections, right? So it's like a network graph. I just haven't created enough traffic on it. So if you want to go try to break it, you can. Here. It's public facing app. Let's go try that out. It'll be gone in 10 minutes anyways. But test it out. Let me know what. Let's see if some network traffic comes in. But for now, I'm just going to move on, and I'll probably go back to that. And then there's the CI/CD aspect. Man, this zoom in is really, really annoying me now. I need to fix this. All right, sorry if you can't see it that well. I do kind of like this. So you have your image, you have your CD. You can have plugins. Trusted signers are already there with specific profiles, and your development CI keys. Now, haven't hooked this. Didn't have time to hook this up to a GitHub account, or my GitHub account, I should say. But I'm assuming that you can set some specific policies and enforce it with the CLI in GitHub. That's my guess as to how it would work.
Is it Rego
for the policies?
Yeah.
You can have these.
So if you just click new rule, do you get
new rule?
Go back to policies, and then right in the middle where it says no rules defined, click new rule. Right there.
I'm clicking it. It's not clicking. You can go to policy. There's no results. New deployment rule works. So yeah, this isn't popping anything up to me. But then
seriously, that gigantic, obviously button thing didn't do anything.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Did not detect. So I can Yeah, you have an allow, a detect, or a block. That kind of makes sense, right? An allow, an inform, or a block. Let's just do detect on everything by label. Gotcha. So they're using the K8 standards for security profiles. Let's just pick baseline. We're going to detect. We can say allow no sidecar. Rule scope by cluster. Let's do C9K. Yeah, so this will be any Rabbit MQ in the cluster that has a vulnerability of, what was it, warning or higher will get detected.
Okay, that's
Or
pretty
medium
cool.
or higher. Yeah.
So my next question is going to be:
What?
does it have an API that allows me to extract those policies and put them into Git and then push them back?
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely need that. Because what you don't want to be doing is working on this UI and doing all that, right?
Nobody wants to work on a UI. I am clicking on your Weave socks, by the way, just in case you wanted to check.
Yeah. So it's kind of, you have deployment rules, you have connection rules, cluster event rules. But again, like this, when I click this new rule, even though it lights up, like nothing's happening. Prevent. Oh, it's pretty interesting. Prevent K cron job creation. Right. It's got a little bit of everything. This is probably just had kube admin permissions, and it's just blocking anything that pops up.
Okay.
I know core DNS poisoning is part of the MITRE ATT&CK framework there.
That's kind of cool. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, if you just want to create a good idea, is to just pinch and do it on your own. Do it on your own.
The other aspect is the PSP replacement, pod security standards, right? They basically created 3 profiles, but you can now alter and edit them. So you don't necessarily need to use the default ones that come with Kubernetes. It's pretty interesting. You can have maybe like 4 or 5 CI deployment scan, and they do have API policy, although that is a feature that I am not well equipped to dig into.
Yeah, no problem.
It's in beta, so you can see it there. Okay. So it is pretty interesting. I might test it out a little bit later because we do have a pretty nice payment app. Well, an old Weave Socks app, I should say, pretty nice. And then I think the last one I want to go before I check out Navigator was Runtime to see what exactly they have. So you can look at violations only. This is pretty cool. I like this, being able to sort just by critical. We want critical and critical workload.
There you go. Payment. Yep.
Identified, right? I'm curious what they mean by unidentified.
Yeah. Unidentified. Workload is unidentified. Doesn't tell you what it means.
Yeah, and see, so it says like the image registry is untrusted, but then if I go to the front dashboard, it's saying, hey, yeah, you have trusted image registries because I haven't entered any, right? There's a...
That's also weird. It says workload risk, the workload was unidentified. Workload trust, the workload was identified. Is that meant to align? Because it says it was identified there, and then the bottom corner says it was identified.
Yeah, then you may ignore risk rules on the risk management page. That must be basically what we want at the beginning. Rule set action detect.
Ooh, restrict. Uh-oh, here we go. Okay, implicit rule. Yeah.
But then how do I identify it?
What does identify even mean? Maybe you need a registry for it to be identified.
Yeah.
So it can know it from source. That may kind of make sense.
Yeah, because it'll be able to pull the Docker file and be able to see the workflow. Yeah.
It would mean that it would have scanned it in advance of it being live in runtime, so it knows that it's yours or something like that.
Okay, this operation legend is way too big, and I can't.
Can you move it?
I can't figure out how to. No.
There's no minimize.
No.
I wonder if the UX people will watch this.
Yeah, it's this Zoom thing that's kind of getting me. Oh, maybe there. It's just because. Oh, there's the X.
Oh, there you go. Oh, you were just off screen.
Yeah, but I guess that's the annoying thing is I'd almost want this up here on the top left. Just as because if I'm zooming in, like obviously the sidebar and the top bar will zoom in with me, but the other ones won't. But I would zoom all the way out for it to show up.
I don't know if I had a dime for every UI that just made a assumption that you're on an HD monitor at all times.
Yeah, that's true. That sorry for the widescreen. Any last thoughts? I mean, this is pretty interesting. I'm very curious to see how heavy it is. They do have some pretty cool features. The APIs, they have a little bit more of, I think, from an enforcement perspective with Istio and interacting with the Kube API, you can have some cool combinations of policies, I found. I think some of the policy aspects of being able to just say, hey, no cron jobs, you can't run this in this cluster. And you can group those policies too. Which was an aspect that I didn't really show, but I found it, let's say you have your developers and it's like, okay, well, maybe it's the AI ML team. Well, they're only really gonna be running, cron jobs and maybe like a bunch of Argo and things like that, but they don't need storage for a lot of their applications, or it's ephemeral or something like that. You can create policies around that, which is pretty interesting. One of the more culturally significant things is, do you think this is more of an operations tool than a security tool?
Hot taking on it, I'd say it doesn't know what it wants to be. It's giving you operational visibility. It's giving you some security vulnerability, but it's not. I don't see it as super actionable. Yeah.
Because to me, you would typically have, maybe you have like an Aqua or like a CSPM. This is a tool that's kind of your in-between operations and security, where from an operations standpoint, I mean, those policies just from managing, multiple different clusters on multiple different cloud providers is pretty interesting, right? But it can't be, at least from what I've seen, I don't know how you would run it in a detached environment, right?
You wouldn't.
Yeah. So now you're pretty much cloud platforms. You've kind of cut out a lot of Fed space, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. You're focusing on anybody who's SaaS, and so now you're like a little bit like when what was it? Pixie Labs observability platform. Same thing. It's installing an agent, reporting back to a SaaS. You go look and you get to see what's there. Except this one has security, which is pretty cool. You're screwed for, like you said, Fed, some banks, like some of the really big
hybrid platforms probably won't work as well.
Yeah, you're not going to get any business there for that. But I still think the market would be huge for it, and it's a little bit like if both Twistlock or / Prisma Cloud and Aqua, which started as on-prem, and then are moving to a cloud-only solution, but we're towing that ball and chain of legacy design that was for on-prem.
Yeah,
it's like they've leapfrogged that effort and done what they're doing or trying to do. Not as comprehensive, but certainly aspects of it. The visibility. Here are the list of vulnerabilities. Attach a registry. It's identified. Create some rules. Give you a bit of priority based on what we can see and can't see. These are all things that both those platforms do, and this is kind of doing that. But I think at the same time, having worked with both of those in depth, when you put the UI in the hands of somebody, whose hands do you put it in? Because ops probably already have a tool that gives them observability. They don't necessarily need it here.
Yeah.
Tons of tools. I mentioned WeaveScope. Like they're gonna have their Kubernetes observability. Now you're asking security to think outside the box and come up with their own policies, whereas they'd rather you tell me what policies are good and bad, and what, you know what I mean? Like you would need a dedicated Kubernetes security expert in-house to fully equip this with the right rules.
And the thing too is if you are doing this in production and you have a security tool in production, you have an observability tool in production, you're using Istio. So I think if you wanted to enforce policies in production, you're using Istio as a sidecar on some of your applications, that's pretty heavy. And I think maybe it works better if it's upstream, right? Like realistically, this would be best if you if you were in your dev prod staging environment, right? Enforcing those policies before production and then just observing.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. That's a pretty common pattern to have kind of, that comes down to the question I had about, can I set this up in dev and then maybe be a little bit stricter, a little bit more loose, or just simply observable, and then API those out into a GitHub repo and go, all right, this is what we want for prod. And just push a version of this enforcement into prod without having to really ever touch a UI. That would be a reasonable use case, but I think still a lot of work for a lot of organizations to really put that effort in, be it a small one or a big one. I'm curious. I'll be curious to see where it is in 3 years, because will it become hot? Will we hear about it again? Or will it just kind of like, it's cool, but nobody really.
Panoptica?
I guess
what's your thought on that name?
It doesn't sound like a cloud native tool. That's probably me being really geeky. It sounds like a cool name.
Yeah.
You know, visibility of everything is what it implies, I guess, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of my question. Is it more of an operations tool? It didn't lean into the security name. It didn't pick a.
Well, I think unintentionally, Optica sounds like ops.
Yeah.
When really what they mean is visibility, or observability, which then just sounds like ops.
Yeah. Speaking of visibility, what's going on with your camera?
Yeah, it's because I rearranged I put it in a different spot. It used to be here, and I forgot. Why did I do that? Why did I move it? It's because
Picking up a sticker.
It picks up a sticker as a face. So I moved it.
Oh, that's
now
too funny.
Again. Yeah.
Anyway, so next week we have a holiday.
We do?
Well, I say we. It's
Oh.
Canada Day next week. So, and it's a long weekend. Right. So I think the plan is to see you in 2 weeks. After that, we'll let you have a little break.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. And we'll have another bumper show because it'll be 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a long one, and we have a ton of demos. I might actually in the tool time just list out all the different startups that I saw over the week.
Awesome. Yeah. Throw it in our sync doc, but otherwise, we're done and almost nailed it on the hour.
It's perfect. Yeah, it was nice to do a demo in a while. You've been taking the reins for the last 2 times, so
that was a good one too. Yeah, that was pretty thorough. All right, excellent. We might as well sign off. We're done. My name's Steve Jaguar.
And I'm Mike Foster. Happy Friday.